Death, the opposition of living. Death is a complex subject in which humans have a hard time comprehending. Even in the year 2024, when most oddities and questions of the world have been answered, yet when it comes to death, we know relatively nothing until we firsthand experience it. This causes the endless running away from our body's expiration date, when in reality we are just taking one more step closer each and every day. When speaking of death, it goes hand in hand with the emotion grief. The abundance of love that builds so much for something or someone that can no longer physically be present. Grief is an emotion that tackles those complex feelings and emotions. Grief is a blessing and a curse, in my opinion. A famous quote states that grief is to have loved fully, and I love the concept, since when you are facing grief, you feel so powerless. So how can somebody with less progressive ideologies and no internet access contain these intense emotions? I've tried my best to delve into this idea, and here's what I found. I personally have had a lot of trouble grappling with this concept lately, and had me questioning what were the old-time thoughts and ideologies when it comes to the concept of death. In the year 2024, we have all become so desensitized to death. It's fear, a barrage thrown at you with every other news article trying to convince you that the world is close to imploding. Or the desensitization most Americans face with death every week, when there's a new mass shooting incident and we can collectively mourn for 3 days and then eventually move on to the next tragedy. When it comes to old-time traditions, they blow modern civilization out of the water. On reflection, making us seem more as people trapped in a consumerist society. Mourning traditions in 2024 are simple. You either get buried in a casket or your family has you cremated. These procedures cost a lot of money though, and it is normal practice and seen as the social norm to do so. These practices are respectful and make a lot of sense, but they are pricey procedures which some families cannot have done. Death is a sensitive subject out of fear. Its name can be a bad juju for some, and others accept it in its full reality. People have such a hard time with death nowadays. However, from what I can see, this has stayed very consistent throughout mankind. When we take a deep dive into the history of death in America, all its themes remain the same trajectory of confusion, sadness, and grief. All emotions which can only heal with time, which is the same construct propelling us towards our own eventual demise. People used to grieve way more personally in the past. They would wear custom-tailored mourning gowns with custom mourning veils, and they would also put their hair up with mourning pins. These are kind gestures, however these procedures cost money. So either you can actually pay for these services or go a different route like postmortem photography. This practice was big back in the day. The understanding of death back then wasn't stupid. People knew that they wouldn't see their loved ones again, so postmortem photography was huge. To capture what someone looked like when you got to say their final goodbye with them is huge for them. And considering people to this day find old postmortem photography shows that these were people's prized possessions until time eventually caught back up with them. These examples all left me baffled, and considering the monetary aspect and ethical standpoint of someone who sells some form of mourning/funeral services. Are these people typically doing this for the betterment of their community or simply altruism? Considering how consistent our practices are, I would say that it is a mixture of people who truly love the art and craftsmanship of their work, but also the leeches who simply do it for monetary purposes. The world has always had people like this, and it always will. Yin always has its yang, and just as the concept of life is to death. Putting the monetary aspect of mourning practices aside, you can see the impact and emotion for people who are trying to grasp the new reality, which is after someone's passing. You can see this form when George Washington passed away. His supporters could be seen wearing armbands with a headstone and a weeping willow on it. Or the lockets created for people with past loved ones with their names, dates, and info inscribed on it. That is the craftsmanship in death, in which can help uplift others and remind them not only of the person who is missed, but also the impact that they have had on their lives, and also the importance of still being above the dirt. A stark reminder that life keeps moving until it doesn't, so keep racing against the clock.